All these messages I'm receiving about Nnamdi Kanu, it irritates me. Somebody was there comparing Nnamdi Kanu with Ojukwu. Another one was saying, Nnamdi Kanu, you are not the Igbo emperor. Where were you guys? The masses have lost faith in all of you Igbo politicians. The masses have lost trust in all of you Igbo politicians. The masses don't trust you anymore. The crowd you see at every single event that Nnamdi Kanu is involved in, it's a testament to the fact that you guys have lost your place in the heart of the average Igbo man. I am upset. I am very angry. This is the first time I'm having to speak on this Biafra issue. Prior to this time, if anybody ever told me that I would ever be speaking on behalf of Biafra, that I would ever be supporting Biafra, I would have told the person, you are a liar. I never thought. When Yaradua was the president, it was such a crazy idea to even think of Biafra. When Jonathan was president, there was no way anybody could have brought Biafra. Nnamdi Kanu was not popular. Nobody even cared if he existed. You could have made all the noise in the world and nobody would have listened to you. What happened that all of a sudden that we have a regime in Nigeria that belittles and ignores an entire ethnic group of more than 40 million people? Back in the United States, I was so popular that people began to call me Mr. Nigeria. I drove myself to more than 35 states in the US just researching the life of Nigerians and how they were doing and trying to comb everywhere I could to get Nigerians who were doing positive things. Because I was tired of the cliche of corruption, of thieves, of criminals that was just that Nigerians were identified with in the United States. I was tired of people looking at me and telling me where you're from, and I'd say I'm from Nigeria and they go like, oh wow. I was tired of all that. And I was going around the whole of the United States, combing everywhere, looking for Nigerians who were doing great things. It didn't matter if they were Hausas, if they were Igbos, or if they were Yorubas. And I eventually did a documentary to that effect. And I wrote a book, a magazine to that effect. And in this magazine, which I launched at the Harvard University, in this magazine, I featured Casey Lawal. If you know who Casey Lawal is, I featured a Sokoto-born Jelani Aliyu, who designed Chevy Volt for GM. I even went into a fight with a journalist who had done a documentary on behalf of one of the leading networks in the US about Chevy Volt, which Jelani designed. And I said, how come you did a documentary on the car that my brother designed, and you did not feature him, you did not even mention his name in that documentary? And she was like, oh, forgive me, Joe, I'm under authority. I couldn't do more. I featured Dr. Oyeshiku. I featured Igbo, I featured Yoruba, I featured Hausa. I drove myself from Atlanta to Michigan, about a day and a half journey, I guess, to go and see Jelani Aliyu in Michigan. We were like brothers. We were together. We talked. We related. All through the period, we kept talking. I mean, I never saw him like an Hausa man. I never saw the Yorubas like Yorubas. I fought so hard for Nigeria that even when the Mutalab thing happened, Abdul Mutalab, the one they call the underwear bomber, I took it upon myself. Nigerians already knew me and they were calling me from all over the place. I was defending and defending and defending. I even went on record and said, why would the US blame Nigeria when the father of Mutalab had already told the embassy to please watch out. My son has been going to some crazy places. You need to watch out. Be careful before you give him visas. I was defending Abdul Mutalab because I saw him as my brother. He is not an Igbo boy. I would go to Black Caucus meeting. They're discussing something else, and I would rise up and say, hey, what about Nigeria? I was at the Capitol Hill. What about Nigeria? Everywhere I turned, it was all about Nigeria. I even wrote a poem about Nigeria. Google, my name is on YouTube. That statement is right now on YouTube, where I made a speech at my book launch. And I read the little poem that I wrote about Nigeria. That's how much I loved the country that I called my country, Nigeria. I made so much noise about Nigeria in the United States that even Shakasali of Voice of America TV called me from nowhere. I never knew him. I've never met him. They just called me up and said, we want to have you on our show. And I was on Voice of America TV International defending and talking about my country. A show where they always had presidential candidates or people who just got elected as president. I was sitting there with top politicians discussing my country. And it was all praise and promotion for Nigeria. I used my own school fees to do these projects. Thanks to World Ebony Network who came to my rescue. And then I come back home to Nigeria. And all of a sudden I just realized I don't have a home. How does that feel? How does that feel to come home after fighting a unity fighting all the way United States of America? You step back home. You come back home and realize that you are even worse than a third-class citizen. Why should anybody have to do this to me, to any Igbo person? Why should we not feel comfortable in Nigeria if this is our country? Why did we have to get to this point where people who could never have imagined they would ever open their mouth and say Biafra have now all become closet Biafra supporters all over the place? It's a very sad day for Nigeria. If you look around you today, you will notice that something has shifted in the realm of the spiritual. The Nnamdi Kanu that you people are denigrating and talking all kinds of trash about, that man is no longer himself. The reason that everybody is following him is because when they look at the Nigerian government, the average Igbo man looks at the Nigerian government and what he sees is oppression. The average Igbo man looks at the Igbo politicians, what they see is betrayal. When they look at Nnamdi Kanu, what they see is hope. Why? Because these things are relatable. These are things you can't deny. You can touch them. You can feel it. It is right there in the atmosphere. David was not the most qualified, but he got the oil on his head. Moses was not the most eloquent, but he was the one to defend his people. Listen to me. Stop denigrating Nnamdi Kanu. Stop writing trash about Nnamdi Kanu. He is anointed for this movement. I heard a prophet from Abuja saying, hey, I am not an Igbo man, but there's something on this man, and nobody wants to listen to him. I tell you the truth. The spirit of the fallen heroes of Biafra, they are rising up again. I don't know how. It's a spiritual thing. I don't know how it is happening, but it is happening. If you're not feeling it, I feel it every blessed day. There was a quick notice. The quick notice says, you have to leave at so time. And when you leave, we're going to confiscate your properties. Jesus Christ. In the 21st century Nigeria, in the country where we belong, let us remember our fallen heroes. And then you go like, get out of here. We will confiscate your property. Where on earth has anything like this ever happened? Biafra is on the horizon. Mark my words. I fought for Donald Trump. I supported him. Go to my Facebook, Joseph Okechukwu. Every single thing I said about Donald Trump, it came to pass. Every single thing, every single one I spoke about him, it all came to pass. I fought vigorously for him. I won him votes like there is no tomorrow. And guess what? I'm telling you another one now. Biafra is right on the horizon.